I'm thinking of my parents this morning, and I'm thinking of some learning I've been doing in the past week, filled with emotion in a lot of different ways. And so we're going to do some learning, I'm going to do some teaching. So in a way, this learning and teaching that we'll do today started last week in the sanctuary right before services. In this way, this learning and teaching we're going to do today started a few months ago as we started looking ahead to Pesach and making our preparations. And in a way, this learning and teaching started with my parents. So today is my mom's birthday. Coming up in the coming week is the first yahrzeit of my dad. So I'm thinking of both of them and really honoring them today. And I realize I spend a lot of time talking about calendars, and I haven't really thought about it until this week, but in my family growing up, the family calendar was central. It was very important. Both of my parents really believed in keeping track of everyone's comings and goings, and the family calendar really kept us together. Now, my parents definitely had different organizational strengths and weaknesses, which is a whole other story, but both of my parents shared this view of a calendar being important and keeping track of the comings and goings of everyone in our family. Now, calendars, of course, are central in Jewish tradition and also in synagogue communities like ours. Calendars keep us together as a community. So last week, I was arriving for services. Just a few people were here pretty early, and someone asked, what is Purim Mishulash? Purim Mishulash. Well, it's been a busy time with Purim last week, so the answer, what I gave at the time, which was true, which is I saw it on my calendar. I'm curious about what it is, and I haven't yet had a chance to look it up. It didn't affect our observance of Purim here this year, so I was like, I'll get to it when I get to it. But we talked a little bit about it, and it piqued my curiosity. Okay, so Purim Mishulash, one concept. Now the concept of Pesach, which of course we are all looking forward to very much. And a few months ago, we were looking ahead to our plan for the month of April, which includes Pesach, and asking the question, as we do every year in our community, when is the deadline for selling chametz, and when do we close the kitchens for Pesach? And so we noticed, wait, this year, Erev Pesach is on Shabbat. The first Seder is Saturday night. But Erev Pesach is generally the time we burn chametz, but you can't burn chametz or anything else for that matter on Shabbat. So what do? Also, you're supposed to eat challah on Shabbat, but challah is chametz. So what do? So today we're going to answer these questions. We'll start with the simple answer. We'll continue with the detailed answer and how it's connected to Purim Mishulash. And then we'll conclude, just to review, with a repetition of the simple answer. Here we go. Now, the simple answer is not the only answer. It is the best answer, not just according to me, but according to my teacher, Rabbi David Golinkin, who's from Jerusalem, and our teacher, Rabbi Miles Cohen, author of our Luach, which I affectionately call the Big Little Book of Answers. It's the correct answer. And here's what it is. On Thursday night, the Thursday night before Pesach, that's when we search for chametz. Friday morning is when we burn and nullify our chametz. This means no more chametz in our possession. Then we use egg matzah, also known as matzah ashira, in place of challah on Friday night and Saturday morning. We eat egg matzah on Shabbat instead of challah or regular matzah. And that's all from Friday morning to Shabbat. Midday, we eat egg matzah instead of chametz. And we start eating regular matzah for the first time at the Seder on Saturday night. So that's the simple answer. I'm sure you're all ready for the detailed answer. My teacher, Rabbi David Golinkin, explains that Erev Pesach falling on Shabbat is relatively rare. And a man of details he certainly is, and he says it's 12% of the time that Erev Pesach falls on Shabbat. The next one coming up, mark your calendars, people, is 2045. So we're going to wait for a while, but it's going to happen again. And it also turns out that Purim Meshulash and Erev Pesach falling on Shabbat are always in the same year. These two rarities always go together. So mark your calendars for the next Purim Meshulash, occurring in 2045. Now, what is Purim Meshulash? So you might have seen on the calendar, if you're paying close attention like I do because my parents taught me to, that there's Purim and Shushan Purim. So we here in Los Angeles observe regular Purim on the 14th of Adar, which is the same day that Purim is observed most places, including Tel Aviv, plus or minus the time difference, of course, because both Los Angeles and Tel Aviv and most cities are not walled cities. That is, they're not cities built with an ancient fortification wall surrounding them. Now in Jerusalem, Shushan Purim is observed not on the 14th of Adar, but instead of the 15th of Adar. So it's the same exact holiday, just on a different day. In Israel, it's possible to observe Purim on the 14th of Adar in Tel Aviv, and then go to Jerusalem and observe Purim all over again on the 15th of Adar. If you haven't done this, I recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It's twice as much fun, to be exact. Now, Purim Mishulash is what happens when Shushan Purim falls on Shabbat. And Purim Mishulash, meaning split into three, it splits the holiday into three as follows. On Thursday night and Friday, that's when we read the Megillah and give our gifts to the poor. On Erev Shabbat and Shabbat day, we say our special Al Hanisim Purim prayers. And then Sunday, the moment we've all been waiting for, we send and receive our Mishloach Manot and have our special Purim Seudah, our special Purim meal. And this is because the mitzvot of Purim can't be done on Shabbat. So in Jerusalem, right after you experience this whole Purim Mishulash calendrical rarity, it's time to start thinking about what to do to prepare for the first Seder on Saturday night. Just like here right after Purim, we start thinking about Pesach. But it turns out, my teacher, Rabbi David Golinkin, observes that in Jerusalem, you can go to Mea Shearim, which is a neighborhood with lots of observant Jews, and actually buy special guidebooks called Purim Mishulash and Erev Pesach on Shabbat, because they're guides to how to observe the intricacies of Jewish law in these special years where this strange things happens. Okay, so we're figuring out how to prepare for Erev Pesach on Shabbat. Now this is complicated, and I know that some of you have thought this through already because I've talked to you about it. Since we don't shop on Shabbat, and since we don't cook on Shabbat, all the shopping and cooking has to be done an extra day in advance, and of course combined with our regular preparations for Shabbat. It's going to be really easy and fun for everyone. We're all looking forward to it. Okay, so then what do you do about the challah? I was actually asked this very question just a couple of days ago by a member of our community, Inquiring Minds. We want to know, we need to know. We've already gone over the simple answer, and we'll review it again at the end. But for now, we have 5, count them 5, different possible correct answers or opinions offered through the generations. Okay, so the first opinion, I'll call this the matzah opinion. No one follows this one anymore. We read in the Talmud Yerushalmi, in the Rambam, and in the Shulchan Aruch, you are not allowed to eat matzah the day before the Seder. This tradition of saving that first taste of matzah for the middle of the Seder is a well-established tradition, and this opinion ignores that. So instead of challah, just eat regular matzah, the same kind as the Seder. It's no big deal. But no one follows this opinion because it really is actually a big deal to save that first taste of matzah for the Seder. Okay, the second opinion. I call this the no crumb left behind opinion. Now, people actually still do this. What you do is you eat your regular challah, your chametz challah, on Friday night, and you keep it in a separate table in like the corner of your dining room, and you're really, really careful that you don't accidentally re-chametz your entire situation. So, and there are instructions in the halacha codes that you take the tablecloth and you go outside and you shake it out. Make sure to shake out your clothes so you don't get chametz crumbs somewhere. So sounds like fun, or maybe not. Now on Saturday morning, it's even more ridiculous because you eat your challah not at lunchtime, but in the middle of the morning because you have to dispose of any remaining chametz in the morning, even though you can't burn it anymore, so you have to throw it out in kind of a public place, and then you have to nullify the chametz after you burn the chametz yesterday. So rabbis throughout the generations have said, this does not sound like fun. Even Rabbi Eliyahu Hazan, in 1876, said that this approach prevents the joy of Shabbat. Now, I agree with this, and so do my teachers. We're ready for opinion 3. I call this the matzah soup opinion. Personally, this one I think makes the least amount of sense. So you can't use challah on Shabbat, and you can't use regular matzah. So you take regular matzah and you modify it as follows. All right, this happens before Shabbat. So you take your matzah, the square, the circle, or whatever shape it is, you immerse it in chicken soup, and somehow you remove it in one whole piece. Then, once you've removed the chametz the matzah in one whole piece, then you can break it on Shabbat and use it for challah. So the question is this even possible according to the laws of physics? I think the answer is no. So another option is you can take the whole matzah and fry it in oil. The prevailing opinion on, or the prevailing comment on this matzah soup opinion is this is too much effort. And I've actually run it by an expert chef for Pesach, this friend of mine who does an amazing Seder every single year for her friends and family. And she says that accomplishing this seems either difficult or impossible. Okay, opinion number 4. I call this the secret special matzah opinion. So you can't use regular matzah before the Seder. So you bake special matzah specifically for Erev Shabbat. It's the exact same matzah, but with a different intention in its creation. And so no one follows this opinion because the secret special matzah still tastes the same as the Seder matzah, and the taste of the matzah at the Seder, the first taste of matzah at the Seder is what's significant. Okay. Finally, we're back to the best correct answer opinion. This is what we will be doing on our Adat Shalom campus. This is the instruction that will be given in our Pesach e-blast. Shout out to Rena Lee for amazing e-blast, especially for Pesach. And so this is what we do. We dispose of, we sell, well actually the selling comes before, but we dispose of, we burn, we nullify all our chametz, and we stop eating it on Friday morning. We use egg matzah instead of regular challah on Shabbat. And we save that first taste of we use egg matzah instead of challah on Shabbat, and then we enjoy that first taste of regular matzah anew at the Seder on Saturday night. Now, the reason why this is the correct answer for our day is because egg matzah is readily available. Throughout the generations, that hasn't necessarily been true, but for us, all you have to do is go to your favorite kosher supermarket or maybe even a regular supermarket that carries kosher food, and you can find egg matzah. So egg matzah, it's not chametz, it's matzah, but it also can't be used for the Seder because it's matzah ashira, it's enriched matzah, not lechem oni, the bread of our enslavement. That's the only contains flour and water, and that's what the taste that we have for the Seder. So, after Shabbat, go forth and get yourself a fresh box of egg matzah for Shabbat Erev Pesach. To conclude our teaching today, I'll share some words from my teacher, Rabbi David Golinkin. He says about Pesach, have a chag sameach v'kasher. It's important for it to be kasher, but we don't want the kasher to interfere with the sameach, with the joy. And so may we all seek guidance from our teachers and from one another to ensure that kasher and sameach can go hand in hand, that we're able to both dive into the details of our tradition and emerge with a joy and a spirit of celebration. Shabbat Shalom.